my workshop for once again the start of another project. Now in this video I'm responding to some customer requests and I've been asked to make a video about making a backpack. Now I've got this lovely piece of Italian leather. It is the most gorgeous chocolate brown colour, slightly mottled, which is just how I like it. So to start off, we turn it over and we work on what's called the flesh side. So this is the back of the leather. We're not going to mark up the face at all if we can avoid it. Now to start off, I've marked up on the back using a gel pen, and we'll just cut out the main constituent parts. So this is the piece of leather that I'm going to use for the first part of the bag that I'm going to make, which is the handle. Now you can make a handle in a variety of sizes, but as this backpack is, I'm assuming, is going to be used by a slightly smaller person than me, then the handle can be slightly thinner. It doesn't need to be an enormous great big handle, which is the kind of thing I usually make. So this time I've cut it as a 25mm strap, so it fits through the D-ring quite nicely, and I reckon a handle about that kind of length will be sufficient. So having polished the edges using this set of dividers, I'm going to quickly run a line down to there. I've marked, you probably won't be able to see it, with some little white dots, and that's going to be the ends of my stitching. And then using this tool here, which is a stitch marker, I'm just going to quickly mark where I want the stitches to be. Now what I like to do is to hold this all into place and stop it moving, is I use some upholstery tacks. So you get it where you want it, and then just quickly put a tack in it like that, and that's now assembled and ready to sew. So there you are, that's the handle made. Fits my hand, so it's going to be quite comfortable, I think. So here we are, reaching the point of expensive mistakes. If you get it wrong at this point, it will cost you a lot of money. So ever so carefully we line up the punch. And then what's going to happen is our handle threads through here like so. We'll put it as tight as we can, and then we'll sew quickly along there and in there, and the same that side, and then that's our handle in place. To attach the straps onto the back of the bag, I'm going to take a somewhat unusual approach. What I want to do is to put a pair of D-rings somewhere around about here, and I have cut these little straps here, which I could sew straight onto the back of the bag and they would do the job, but there's a couple of issues that we need to consider. First of all, these are going to take all the weight of the bag, so wherever I put them they need to be very, very well anchored. The next problem is that I have this piece here which sews on the inside of our bag, and it's that which gives the bag the corner. It also strengthens the bag, and if I sew across there, I've then got to get through there, and it's all going to start looking a bit ugly. So what I'm going to do, this first part of the strap is going to sew on the outside of the bag, and the second part of the strap is going to sew on the inside of the bag. So what I need to do now is to cut a couple of slots here, and it will all become very apparent. So you can now see what will happen is our strap will then sew onto that like that, and I will be able to get lots and lots of strength behind that. So that will be a very, very strong anchor, and you've got to go something to pull that out of the bag. So as you can see, we've now sewn our little lugs onto the top, so it's time to consider the lugs on the bottom. Now I'm going to do something which is quite unusual for me for these. What I'm concerned about is that these here are going to take an awful lot of strain on the straps, which are going to want to pull these away, and I'm concerned that even though my sewing is good, that there might not quite be enough strength there to do it. So what I'm going to do is something I never thought I'd find myself saying, is I'm going to use a rivet. I do admit to knowing about rivets, and occasionally I do use them. So I've marked it up using this hole punch. And this is the little strap that I've made. But what I've done is I've only punched through to the back with the rivet, so the rivet will then go through on there, that will hold it on, and then it will be hidden by the sewn piece on the top. So whilst there'll still be a rivet, I won't necessarily have to see it. And that's what our end result looks like, and that makes a fairly solid fixie. You're going to have to go something to pull that off. So now our attention turns to the front of the bag, this lovely piece of leather here. So first of all, we'll prepare the sides, and then we'll put this little belt in the centre, and we'll stitch it onto the front, somewhere like that. So we've now reached the point that we've finished the back, and we've finished the front. So now we need to turn to the sides. Now for this bag, I'm making the side out of 3 pieces, and what this will do is it will make a much squarer bag, because I'm working on the theory that what's going to be sitting inside this bag is very square things. It's going to be pads of paper, it's going to be laptops, it's going to be tablet computers, all things which have fairly square edges. So we don't really want the rounded edges. So I've cut myself 3 pieces of leather, 2 sides and the bottom. I've stained the edges and I've given them a little bit of polish on the side. I've also stitch marked on the bottom, and I've creased on the top of the long sides. Now one of the things I am going to do is I'm going to cut a groove down the long side here with this tool here. And what this will do is this will make it much easier for the leather to bend, because what I want it to do is to bend something like that. So I shall groove all the way down the sides, I shall groove along the bottom as well, and then all we've got to do is sew that together. From my point of view, this is where it starts to get interesting, because I've never made a backpack before. So whilst I think I know what it's going to look like, it's always actually nice to see it. So this is the long slog. It's going to take me a long time to sew this. I shall start in the middle and work my way out to the sides, which is an unusual way of doing it, but there's a logic to it when you actually start to try and do it. Well, that's the last stitch finished around there. It's taken a solid 3 hours, but luckily it was a good afternoon on the radio, and you can now see what we're really trying to achieve here. Now, the last bit in order to finish the bag is to put a strap or a belt that goes going to go from here that joins up with this buckle, so I shall do that now. Logically, I suppose I should have done this when I was sewing all the bits and pieces on the back. It would have made it considerably easier, but for some reason this is my traditional way of assembling a bag. This is always the very last piece I put on, and I feel a sort of a sense of achievement and tradition that when I finish this, I know I've finished the bag. Now for my next project after this one, I'm leaving leather behind for a while, and I'm going to be making a horse-powered ice cream machine. just because you can. Something I've been talking about making for quite a while, but I now have the opportunity to do it. It's going to take a little bit of a while, but if you'd like to be kept in touch with how I get on, do have a look at the bottom of the screen and it will tell you how to sign up for my blog, and you'll be able to keep up to date with how I'm getting on with that. So at last we finally completed the bag part of our backpack. It's still a little bit stiff. Once you've used it a few times, that will soon loosen up, but if you want, you can treat the inside with a sort of a leather softening preparation. There's several on the market to choose from. I'm rather pleased with that. I think that's rather good. So now all we've got to do is to make the straps to go on the back. Now I've cut the leather for the backpack straps. Let me see if I can explain some of the design process that I went through. Normally when I make a strap, I would use one of these sort of squared D things, or square, and that would go on like that, and that makes a very good handle or something like that. But as I see it, on a strap, particularly one that's going to be going on your back, it's going to be flexing quite a lot. And so if we have something like this, and I cut it in, I sew it in really tight, then I'm just making stresses and making it difficult for the bag. So you remember what I've done is on the back of the bag, I've put one of these D-rings, and that's the bit that the strap is going to go onto. But obviously, it doesn't really slide in there very well. So what I'm going to be doing is I've then got these little snap hooks. So that's going to go on there, and that will allow a little bit of movement on the strap. I've also got the snap hooks that have got a swivel there. So not only can it go that way, but you can also swivel that way. So this will make the straps very flexible and hopefully more comfortable for the wearer. So that's the principle behind it, so let's see if it works. So as you can see, that's the strap with the clips on, and we've got a fair amount of movement in that direction, and obviously it can twist that way. So we've got lots of flexibility on this strap, which is how I think it needs to be. So through the wonders of video, you've missed all the boring bits, so let me recap what I've done. I cut myself a strap of leather 25mm wide. I've then put this swivel dog clip on the end, and I've sewn the ends together like that. I've made it into what would be a standard belt. I've punched 5 holes in the end and I've put a little point on it. At the other end of the strap, I've done exactly the same again. I've put myself a dog clip on the end, and now I've put a buckle in. So one end clips to the top of the bag, and one end clips to the bottom of the bag, and as you can see, I now have a fairly decent backpack. And I could leave 2 straps like that. As you can see, they're equal in length. It looks rather nice as well, I quite like that. But the one thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that these are now very thin straps, and if I put any kind of weight at all into the backpack itself, it's going to hurt on the shoulders. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a pair of shoulder pads. Now in order to make the shoulder pads, I've cut myself 4 pieces of leather, each one about the same size, so it's about 75mm across that way by about 200mm that way. And as you may or may not be able to see, I've creased around the edge and I've stitch marked each piece, but I've only done that on the top piece. On the bottom pieces I've not done anything at all, so I'm going to put those to one side so I don't get those confused. Now on the back I've marked up 30mm in from each end, and I've found the centre. And I'm then going to use my 1-inch slot cutter like so, and then the idea is our belt comes along, goes through the slot like this, so that then becomes our shoulder pad. The bottom piece I'll sew onto it like that, And the two together will make a very substantial shoulder pad. So let's see if we can do that now. Well, there you go, the very last stitch. As you can see, what I've done is I've fitted a shoulder pad onto this belt. That then goes on here, like so. And that clips onto the back of our bag. So what we then have is a backpack with shoulder straps. It's a decent size. I have to say I rather like that one. That's come out rather well. I've never made a backpack before, but I think I'll probably make another one. I quite like that. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos. If you have a look at my channel. There might be a few more that you like. Become a subscriber, press the like button, or better still sign up for the blog. It's all there for your edification and entertainment. Thanks for watching.